It's a great question, Daniel. And, being like an achiever business owner, people that want to do a lot of stuff and want to always look at the positives, we try not to think about fears because like, what do you mean? Every business is going well and we just want to focus on what we want. And there are great things, right? But I think there's always underlying fears that we're there, whether we've chosen to bury them or renegotiate or whatever the term is with fears. So I think it's important to understand that they are always there. It's just the question is, are you aware enough to acknowledge them and go, okay, well, how can I overcome these fears, or how do they not stop me even from an unconscious level of doing certain things? Now, a lot of fears, if we go deep on NLP just quickly, there's two main fears, right, that people have is not being good enough and not feeling loved. Now, a lot of people, entrepreneurs are going, what are you talking about, Athin? Like, that's not me, right? But this is real deep stuff here. But then there's fears in between this that come out that might be, maybe I fear that I'm not going to be able to support for my family, right? If you have a family. And that can be linked to not being good enough, right? In what you're doing in your job, your kind of service or product, whatever you're offering, right, to the market there, that you're able to not provide, and provide a good, for your team and everything like that. So are you really good enough? I think that's a really powerful thing to understand, right? And really that, that we are good enough and nothing's ever perfect and that we can always continue to improve, right, over time, right? It's just that there's nothing, you're not going to always get it perfect and right the first time. It's just always improvement, but we are great at what we do. And we've got that growth mindset basically to keep moving forward on that. And there's always, I think, some potential money fears and that with people, depending on where they're at. So how can you then create a business model or ways to create cash flow that it is more predictable, so you don't have that fear as much? I think that's important, and every business is a bit different in there as well. And I think, I think they're the key ones. And then if there's some really deep stuff where maybe you had a bad childhood or something like that, that fear of being loved can come up, and maybe there's some tools like we discussed a little bit beforehand, Daniel, about some NLP tools or something that might be there where you can actually then feel that love again, and that could fill a void that could be creating issues in your life, that are linked, to your business and everything as well.
So I think a lot of these behaviours are out of people's conscious awareness. They're not aware of them on the surface, and they probably can't even label it. Hey, I've got a fear of being taken advantage of, or I've got a fear of rejection, or I have a fear of losing my stability, or I have a fear of screwing up and making a mistake. A lot of it seems to be below the surface. What are some things that they could see in their behaviours or even in their results that could allude to that there might be a mental or an emotional blockage in the way?
Yeah, I think the key thing is if you're not where you want to be, there's obviously something underlying. Because one of my coaches, coaches a lot on life, says if you're not upskilling, you can only get to your business to a level of where you want it to be when you upskill yourself. You have that awareness, you grow yourself, because we are the biggest bottleneck in our business as the business owner especially. So we need to go, okay, let's have some awareness. What do I need to work on? And then once we do that, the business will go forward. So if your business is not where it's at, it's normally something on yourself. So just having, going, okay, well, don't just be like, business is awesome, I don't need to work on myself. What are you talking about? It's no, okay, maybe there's some people out here and there's a mirror, right? Like we can't tell, we're inside the box. So ourselves, it's hard for us to see what's holding us back. This is why we need coaches and mentors like ourselves or external people to be able to ask the right questions or uncover things, take us down a process to find out what these underlying things are. Without that, you're just flying blind and you're just flying above the ocean, but really there's all this stuff going on, right, under the ocean that you're not aware of. So really understanding that there is some things going on there, and that going, I'm going to find some people that can help me, and being open to change. I think a lot of people like to stay comfortable, or a little bit wary of change, or I don't know about this different process or whatever you're going to talk to me about. But I think my mindset is that I'm always open to learning. I'm always open to learning new things. Go in with a complete big mindset and then decide later. I think that would be my biggest tip for everybody. I see so many people, whether they go to events, have coaches, and they're already got their arms crossed. They're like, I don't know about this. And they're not taking the information in. That could be like life-changing, right? Breakthrough information here. So go in 100%. Just go in, go, you know what? I'm going to take it all in. And then, depending on what happens later, I'll decide, because our brain deletes, distorts, generalizes, right? Information. So if we're already doing that from the start, we're already blocking it. So really being open, I think, is the biggest thing that you can do, and choosing later, because that's going to get you the breakthroughs. And you watch, it could be one little breakthrough that happens. I know I did a mindset session with a client. I just did a mindset session because I saw there was something going wrong. The next month, they had their biggest ever month in their business. And they said it was worth the whole year with me. Right? Like, that's how powerful a mindset session is. But everyone's like, what are you talking about? She'll be right. I don't need mindset. What do you mean like that? Right? So, it's powerful, how much your personal psychology and your mindset can be to translate to your business results. So be open to that. Allow yourself to go through that. There might be a bit of pain. There might be a bit of being uncomfortable, frustration, confusion that happens in that moment. But when you break through that, everything can open up and you can truly move forward.
When you talk about mindset, it's invisible. So how do I see this mental block? How do I see the emotional blockages? How do I even believe what you're saying is true? Because when I look at my marketing department, I can see how many leads they've generated. When I look at my sales department, I can see how many sales they've made. I can have a look at and measure my retention rates. But this mindset, it's invisible. So for you to get buy-in from these customers, how do you make the invisible visible? What are you doing so they go, I see it, I believe it? Because I believe people think they're people of faith. But faith means you've got to believe in the invisible. So how do you get people to see that invisible component, that mindset? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I guess the key thing is really making them aware of their language, because a lot of the time we just say things like it's natural, right? And most of our thoughts, I think it's 90% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So we're saying the same things, right? So, and we're not even aware of it. So then what I'm going to say is, hey, did you know you just said this? And they're like, oh, did I say that? And it'd be a limiting thought, right? A limiting belief, or whatever that is. And I'll be like, okay, well, we need to work on this because this is going to hold you back. So I think it's holding the mirror there because they can't see the mirror. Right? So I think it's holding the mirror, actually going, do you know you said this? They're like, oh no. And sometimes they might be talking for 10, 15 minutes and I can pick up a lot of things and go, we need to work on all of these areas. And then, then being open to going, okay, well, what if we, go through a process and then go on the other end of what we can truly believe later. So I think the biggest one is holding that mirror to them. And the other way is just looking at what's happening in your business or your life. Like, how are you operating as a person? Are you frustrated with your employees? Are you getting angry with things? Are you, going home and feeling worried? Like, what's happening in your life? If there's things in your life or your business that are not completely good and you're reacting to things a lot of the time of what's happening, then there's something likely deeper down, in your mindset and your beliefs that's holding you back. And a lot of these things happen from when we're 0 to 7 years old. It's literally our parents or people that we, grew us up that created these beliefs. We don't even know that they're there until someone takes us through a process and helps us to rescript them. So, and this is proven, right, with a lot of people, just for people with stats, that a lot of our beliefs happen in those first 7 years of life. And not like I can barely remember anything from my first 7 years, right? So it's like they're there. The science proves it. So you have to believe that they're there and then go, okay, if my coach, mentor, or whoever it is taking me through a process, going, whatever comes up for you in that moment, just go with the flow, go through the process and then change it. And then, that could be the biggest thing. And then you'll see in your results, right? Like you'll see on how you're operating as a person. Like let's say you were like, oh, I hate, doing videos, and maybe your marketing department, you talk about marketing, right? Wants you to do videos. I hate doing videos. Well, that's a limiting belief. Let's change that belief to maybe I love doing videos, right? Or whatever it is that we go through that process. All of a sudden, you could just start doing videos straight away. And then your marketing's increasing, you're getting more leads and clients and all the rest of it. So that's an example of one belief that you probably didn't even realize that you had that belief until the external person made that known to you and then helped you go through a process to change it. So it's little things like that, or it could be really deep things depending on where it's at, but it will show up. It will show up in your business. It will show up how you relate to other people, whether it's, your team, your family, your friends, everything like that. And then you'll realize that, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm actually enjoying myself and really feeling aligned and, and being free in what you want to do.
There was a study that came out from the Stanford Brain Institute. And what they said was that you could break success down into three components: knowledge, skill, and attitude. And I think a lot of people get confused because they hear this saying all the time: the more you learn, the more you earn. And there's people reading 50 books a year. There's people going to every single webinar, every single personal or professional development event, and they acquire all this knowledge and nothing changes. And they get confused, and then they go to the skill set trainings. They learn how to use the video. They learn how to use the microphone. They learn how to do live streams. They got the skill, but they still don't do anything with it. So the Stanford Brain Institute said that when you break success down, there's those three components. There's the knowledge. Knowledge is the foundation. From the knowledge, you then acquire the skills. But knowledge and skill only attributes to 15% of your success. So it leaves the other fully 85% coming down to your mental attitude. And you could have that one fear. Okay, marketing department says I've got to make videos, but I'm afraid of rejection. Or I might have that one limiting belief that gets in my way that I can't do videos. But I've got the knowledge, I should be able to do it. I've got the skills, I've been trained. But the attitude, the mindset gets in the way. And I understand that one limiting belief, one bullshit story that you tell yourself is enough to sabotage your entire success. And we see that as these businesses grow, and I love what you said before. The business owner becomes the biggest bottleneck in the business. You know, they call it the law of the lid. The business can't grow beyond the business owner. And then if they don't solve that problem, the business returns and it goes into a decline. Now, from scaling and growth, when people make that decision, they say, Athin, I want to scale, I want to grow my business, and they start to move out of that comfort zone. They've lived in that success zone and they've dealt with all of those fears at below $5 million, but now they want to go from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. What are those new fears that they have to face as the business starts to grow again?
Yeah, great question. I love this one. And there's a devil in every level, right? That's another saying there. So it's like you've solved these
devil
problems.
on every level. I love it.
It's a great one. And it's not like trying to get away from the problems. It's actually seeking out the higher level problem. Higher level problem is the key thing there. So that's a question that I ask myself, and I recommend that you ask yourself is, what is that? What is the high level problem that I need to solve, which allows me to go up these levels, right, to take it to the next step? So a lot of the time it's probably like, can I hire the right people? Can I pay them? You know, can I have the business to be profitable? You know, am I able to, you know, work an amount and be able to still have, you know, my life that I want to do instead of working 80 hours a week or some crazy hours, right? Like, what is it for you depending on what that level is? But it's a lot around, you know, scaling to that next level. And it's the biggest thing I would say as well is actually letting go. Most business owners are going to be like, no one can do it as good as me. And it's true, right? Like, because there's only one of us. No one can do it as good as us because everyone's unique, right? So you're never going to find I love the head, you know, the padding there. And so be okay with that. Be okay that you might get 80% output out of somebody, right? That is going to do that job. Even less sometimes, depending on what the task is. But let's say 80. Let's be optimistic and we can get 80% once they've been trained up over time. You know what? 180% is better than 100%. Or, you know, 1,000% is better than 100%, right? As we build up and we build our team and everything there. And there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be things that they don't do the right way, even though you've put all the processes and procedures in place and they still don't follow it because we're human. But if you can do as much as possible to minimize that, you know, to protect your brand, to be able to have a great team and have a great culture that everybody loves doing what they're doing, then, you know, you're going to be where you want to be. And I think that's the biggest thing is being a great leader as well, is really understanding what leadership is. And because that's the key thing, is upskilling yourself and having the team to be able to expand the business, but it's understanding leadership, because if you've got a great team and there's a great culture, everybody loves what they're doing and everybody's growing, then they're not going to want to leave you. Or if someone taps them on the shoulder and says, hey, you want to come work for me? Even if they offer them a bit more money, they're probably not going to leave because you know what? I love working with Daniel. I love working with Athin. It's amazing here. And they'll probably tell you saying, hey, I just got, tapped on the shoulder. And you can have a conversation about that and seeing, what it is they want. And that's really what it is, right? Is you create this awesome container for what you want to do with people and bringing them on the journey, right? As a leader. So really, understanding what those leadership skills are, bringing those up, making it better, improving, everything like that, and then implementing, right? And showing that you're honorable in doing what you say you'll do as well, right? Because just like kids, it's team as well. You can say one thing, but if you're not doing it, then people will become disheartened, right? So if you can say you're going to do something, do it. That will rub off on your team, and then all your clients will be happy, your partners, your suppliers, whatever type of business you have, everyone will be happy there that you've put all these systems in place. So there's what those new devils are in the levels, and actually seek those high level problems and going, can I do it on my own, or can I find coaches and mentors, other people external from me that can help me with those to get over them, or get me to that next level quicker.
So at each level they're going to have different fears, different doubts, and different limiting beliefs. What's the consequence of not dealing with those in the business? If the business owner doesn't deal with the fears, the doubts, and the limiting beliefs, then what?
The business is probably going to go down, right? Like that's the fact of the matter, is that you're going to probably plateau. Let's say you're going on the up, you're going all right, but all of a sudden, if you're not allowing yourself to go to that level, the business will start to plateau, and then the business will probably go down. And if you're not looking at improving or changing, then are you going to be able to get that business back up again? And I think that's why most businesses fail, is they get to the point where they don't change, the business starts to go down, and then it gets too hard. And then the business has to fail. So, do you want to really have a business where you're not doing all the work yourself, you've got other people around you, you're all working towards the same mission, you're enjoying it, you've got a great family life, or whatever you do outside of the business, I think it's important. Or if you don't do it, everything could come crashing down. You could lose your business, you could lose your money, your wealth, your other assets, you could lose potential partners. People get divorced over this, right? Like you could lose a lot of things. There's potential. So crap, I need to get my shit in order. I need to upskill myself because I don't want all that shit to happen, because that could really impact my life indefinitely, right, going forward. So make sure that you're seeking this and asking the right questions, finding the right people, so that your business, if it does have a plateau, you can make sure it doesn't go down, it stays there, and then go, what do I need to change, and get it back on the up trajectory, right? In whatever that is, because there's always these little, stages of business that we need to be at. So I think they're the key things that, people should be focusing on.
There's a bit of a culture in Australia today where asking for help is seen as a sign of a weakness. But what I heard was that only strong people ask for help. And I also heard that you can't be your own therapist. So if you've got a fear, if you've got a doubt, if you've got a limiting belief, it's not something that you can work on by yourself. Just like you could be Australia's best brain surgeon. You could have done brain surgery on 200 people, saved 200 lives, yet one day you wake up with a tumour. You simply can't operate on the brain yourself. And what I've seen over the years is that the people who do ask for help, they do transition through that growth stage. They grow rapidly. And it's not uncommon to hear of people who have increased sales by 20 to 25% in a month. It's not uncommon for people to have a shift in that mindset and that attitude, that angle of approach, to double their sales within 6 months. And there's other people out there who have had the same fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs as you. But the only difference is they decided to deal with them. And that's what gives them that competitive advantage. And I was studying competitive advantage many years ago. You don't have to be 100% better than somebody else. You don't have to be 50% better than somebody else. You only need to be 3% better than other people in the most important key result areas. And if you're in selling, you've only got to be 3% better in prospecting, presenting, and closing in those three key areas. and you'll win more business than you could ever thought possible just by getting a little bit better in those areas. And the number one key area that salespeople and business people have to work on is self-preparation. Like, think about an Olympic athlete. An Olympic athlete will train for 4 years to run for 20 or 30 seconds at the Olympics. They do physical preparation, but the high performers in sales, and they say the top 10% of salespeople earn up to 16 times more than the bottom 80% combined. And what they do every day is they focus on that mental preparation. Eliminate the fears, eliminate the doubts, get rid of the limiting beliefs. And they get that competitive advantage. But our environment also changes. And one of the biggest impactors we've seen on the environment in the past decade is COVID. And it's given us a whole series of new problems. So in the market today, what are the new growth problems businesses are facing post-COVID?
Yeah, great points there. I loved all of that. And just touching on that point is about understanding the ego, right? And your pride, and don't letting that get in the way, right? Because that's what the biggest thing that does it for us. I should know all of this when, ask for questions. So I love that. In terms of the growth markets of where it's at, with employees these days, there's a few key things that they want, right? And number one is flexibility that people want right these days. We're all working from home during COVID. Now it depends, right? Some people are still working 100% remotely. Some people are half hybrid. Other businesses are trying to get everybody fully into the office. Is there a right or wrong? That's individual. I think, depending if you have a lot of team and you were in the office, I think there's some good ways to culture build that way, but people still want some flexibility. So how are you giving people flexibility now these days? Because that's a key factor on, are they enjoying to work for you, right? Because as a business, we can't do it all ourselves. We need people to work for us. So you need to be a bit flexible to give them flexibility. That maybe it's 1 or 2 days a week, whatever it is, because maybe there are some things on they need to do. Maybe they need to do school pickup 1 or 2 days a week, and you allow them to work home on those days, which allow them to do that, which then means that they will perform better and they enjoy working for you, right? So having that flexibility is really important, right? Post-COVID. Like money cash flow is big, especially the economy now. It's very interesting, like high inflation, right? Job rate is low, harder to find people. Costs are going up for a lot of things depending on where you're at. So understanding the market and really knowing your numbers. Like, do you have to be increasing your prices? Are you less profitable than what you were before because your costs have gone up, but you haven't realized this? You've just sort of been doing the same thing all the time. So really delving deep on those numbers and going, do we need to change, our pricing and everything like that? So being clear on the numbers, because business is a numbers game, really there. So being clear or getting some help on those areas. And I guess the other thing, so you got the flexibility, you've got the money element of that as well. But it's also understanding, like, what are some other benefits or other things that people want these days, right? Like, how can you value add? Because if we can't just do the same thing as everybody else, how are we different, right? How can we provide more value? And it might be simple things there. So maybe you have to change your business model a little bit. Maybe you have to add something. Maybe you have to innovate what you do, because people copy, right? Like, people will look at what you're doing and eventually the market catches up. So you've got to think innovatively. If you're always innovating, then people are always going to be lagging behind, right? So always be thinking of that. Don't just think, oh, it's really working for me right now. Sales are great. We're hitting this thing and I'm just going to cruise. Do not think like that, because eventually it will dip, because people will be copying and they'll be taking that market share. They'll be doing similar things. So then when you go to that level, we keep doing that and then going, what else can we do? Is it a new service product offering? Is it like something else that we can value add? Like, how do we change what we do? Is it systems that we're implementing? So understanding all of these areas. And I think a big one as well is AI now. Like, it's a big topic, right? Like, not just ChatGPT. That's obviously what most people know, but there's so many AI tools out there that do things. And I think as a business, if you're not using it to some extent to help you like automate or do things quicker, you're going to be left behind, because you could have your team or you be double as productive with AI potentially. So imagine getting double the output, right? Like, you could double the business potentially with no extra resources. right? Like how massive is that, right? Just thinking about that is a possibility. So believing that's possible, being curious, yourself and your team, and adopting AI where possible. Now you need to be a little bit wary of, what information and stuff you're putting in there, but for a lot of things, whether it's emails, proposals, like so many different things, ideas for things, you can use it to your advantage for copy, right? So use it where you can, really embrace it. And that way, I think it's going to, whoever's not going to use it, I think is going to be left behind. And get in on it now. Like do as much as you can now because it's evolving quickly. And the sooner you get into it, the sooner you understand it more, the sooner you'll be better, the sooner you'll be ahead of the market. We talked about competitive advantage. This is one of the key competitive market things in the place. So get in on that. And I think that will, help you a lot in the coming years and, decades to come.